everyone, welcome to CMA Institute of Learning's YouTube channel, and today we'll be going through episode 1 of challenging geography topics for CSEC and CAPE Geography. Here is a completed graph of the storm hydrograph. What is the storm hydrograph? A storm hydrograph is a graph used to display how discharge of a river can be affected over time by any rainfall event. And what is the importance of studying the storm hydrograph? A storm hydrograph can be used to predict flooding and to predict droughts. Now I will explain the axes. The x-axis shows time in hours and days, and the y-axis shows discharge in cumecs. Now what is discharge? River discharge is the volume of water that flows through a river channel. It is the total amount of water flowing through a channel at any given point, and again, like I mentioned before, it is measured in cumecs. The y-axis also shows precipitation in millimeters. Soon you'll further understand that graph. Now let me explain the second y-axis label, precipitation. As you can see, the bar graph displays precipitation within the period of day 1. It shows precipitation increasing gradually to the third bar and decreasing after approximately half a day. Now please make note that this precipitation graph can vary based on the amount of precipitation, whether it's more or less, and also based on the time, whether it's a time period of a few hours, a day, or multiple days. Now let's talk about peak rainfall. Peak rainfall can be explained as the time at which the maximum amount of rainfall occurs during a specific rainfall event. The discharge line, depicted by the maroon line on the graph, shows the amount of water as it varies over time in any given catchment area after a rainfall event. The rising limb, shown on the left side of the maroon line graph, shows water entering a river. The steeper the rising limb, the faster the water is entering into the river. Now let's talk about peak discharge. Peak discharge can be expressed as the highest water flow in a catchment area, depicted by the highest point on the maroon line graph. Now you should notice a broken vertical line going from the x-axis all the way up to peak discharge, as well as a broken horizontal line going across towards the y-axis towards a peak rainfall event. The time frame between the peak rainfall and peak discharge is referred to as the lag time. Now pay attention to the label storm runoff in red. This refers to water that runs directly over the surface of a catchment area or drainage basin due to its lack of time to infiltrate thoroughly into the surface. Now look at the green line and green label through flow. Through flow is a subcomponent of interflow, which occurs when water is already in soil. It is a lateral movement of water through a soil and which returns to the surface as return water flow prior to entering a stream or groundwater. Now look at the purple line, antecedent or base flow. The base flow of a river represents a normal day of discharge that occurs within a river, and it is a consequence of groundwater seeping into a river channel. Now what happens to the water that initially enter the drainage basin? Well, over time, as you can see by the falling or recessional limb, water decreases within the drainage basin. This is depicted by the declining side of the maroon line graph. Finally, we are almost completed learning the storm hydrograph. However, there is one last thing we must know: bankfall discharge. It is very important to not confuse bankfall discharge with peak discharge. So what is bankfall discharge? Bankfall discharge is a maximum discharge that a particular river channel is capable of carrying without flooding. That means the amount of water able to be held in a river channel. On the other hand, peak discharge refers to the maximum amount of water that is held within a river channel, and it's displayed by the point on the flood hydrograph labeled peak discharge in red at the top. Now we have completed the storm hydrograph. Before I leave today, I want to make mention that there's different forms and versions of the storm hydrograph that you may see. The first is the most common, which is a channel in flood. The second is one that is usually found in a rural area or vegetative, depicted by rural storm hydrograph. Factors affecting the storm hydrograph and different types of storm hydrograph will be explained in episode 2 of Challenging Geography Topics next week. Please don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to my channel, CME Institute of Learning.